the last couple days. Like I said, the first day we couldn't use the keyboard, so I had to go through TeamViewer and he'd go into the computer and use the other computer's keyboard to add people. And then yesterday, I couldn't call anyone. And today, I can't search anybody. So it's been a fun time on Skype. But there's John, and we've got Mark, and
How's it going, John?
Howdy.
So Mark, talk to me and John a little bit about your music background.
Oh, wow. I'm afraid to say how long I've been in the business, because that'll give away my age. So let's just say going on a couple of decades now. Started in my teens. This is like the fourth band that I've been in. This one's been going for 10 years in July, actually. So we're pretty excited about our 10-year anniversary coming up.
Look at that. So we've got Mark Ryan with us today, Fifth Fire, and we are going to play some Fifth Fire a little bit later on in the program. And you have really been, like you said, you've been in the music business a heck of a long time. What have you learned along the way?
Oh, gosh. I mean, you kind of need some time to ponder a question like that, I suppose. I think you learn a lot of things about yourself. I think you learn who you are, but I also think you learn what you're not, if that makes any sense.
That's awesome. We have got Mark Ryan with us today from Fifth Fire, and today has been, every guest that I've talked to today has some sort of connection or has some sort of thing related to professional wrestling. We had a porn star on earlier who had something to do with pro wrestling, and Mark has a little bit to do with pro wrestling. Give us your pro wrestling connection, sir.
Oh, man, I've been a lifelong fan. I went to Harley Race's Academy in 2006. Ted DiBiase Jr. was in that class. Reed Flair was actually supposed to be in that class as well. Shortly, after he passed. A couple other guys. Oh, man, it's to participate from that perspective gives you so much of a respect for the business that is professional wrestling, and exactly what level of entertainers and performers and athletes that these guys are. So it was quite an eye-opening experience, something that stayed with me, something that's helped me as a performer in the music industry as well, because those two mediums kind of have a lot in common.
Who was the trainer back then? Who was helping Harley train?
Darren Wade was the head trainer. Actually, Trevor Murdoch would come in. He was the first big signee for Harley. And he would come in. One of the things I really admired about Trevor is that even in his off days, he wanted to be around the business. He wanted to be around the guys, and that to me stuck with me as like, that's a successful person, and you see that, and it's like even when he's not doing it, and he could be resting or he could be spending time with his family, his mind is on the business. So he would come in, I think Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, because their tapings back then, was Monday for Raw, or I think they went live or whatever. So Trevor and Darren Wade were the two trainers.
Okay, awesome. I know Trevor. I've worked some shows with him. I know Ace, too, from way back.
Yeah, Ace, who trained CM Punk and Colt Cabana. He ran the gym next door, and he would come in and roll around with us from time to time.
Yeah, Ace is down with NXT now. He's one of the trainers down there.
Yeah, he just started this year or last year, late last year, I think.
Yeah, like just before, I think, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, he's going to do well. Ace's got a lot of knowledge.
Ace is the one guy that never looks like he aged a day. He still looks the same as he did when I met him back in 1992 or 3.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he keeps himself in great shape. Great shape.
So Mark, applying some of the skills you learned from pro wrestling into the musician world, what are some of those?
I'd say timing, psychology, things that I didn't even really grasp when I was doing it. Professional wrestling is such a frustrating thing to learn initially, and it takes a lot of time. And so I think I learned more about it and understood it more when I got out of it. So I tried to apply some of that to music. Timing, waiting to do the right thing at the right time, whether it be on stage or you're writing a song, you're crafting something, storytelling, beginning, middle, end. Something for the audience to digest that they can make an emotional connection to.
Awesome. We have got Mark Ryan with us today. Of course, He's from the Fifth Fire. You can find them on Facebook, the Fifth Fire. And so you've been in all sorts of different bands. Give me a little bit of a history of the Fifth Fire, because this has been your longest tenured project.
Mm-hmm. Started back in 2010. I mean, we went through a lot of lineup changes that you can see in our discography and things like that. It's just something that kind of happens. So it's a bummer in certain ways, but it helps define you. Man, we started off as kind of a minimalist indie type band. I would say, just from my perspective, we've evolved into something a little bit more hybrid, I think, over time. Went through a lot of incarnations. The lineup changes have certainly contributed to that. But if you asked me 10 years ago if I thought I'd still be here doing it 10 years, I'd definitely say yes. But it's also one of those things you step back and say, wow, this has consumed, a large fraction of my life. And you're very happy about that, but it's quite astounding simultaneously.
That's awesome. At least you've got a great attitude still. Because there's a lot of musicians. There's a lot of musicians that have been through some of the things you've been through, and I talk to them, and they don't have a good attitude.
A little more jaded.
Mark Ryan with us today.
I think in show business, yes. I'm sure James, you can grow a little cynical after time.
Yes. Every time Michael Nagy out of New Jersey will get a hold of me, and he's like, I'm getting ready to interview this band, or this tour manager treated me like crap last night. I'm like, oh, I've been there. I've been there. Now, you list you guys as alternative indie. Describe that to us.
I always said alternative because it's such a broad genre. It's so hard to define, and like I said, I thought we've always been kind of a hybrid of a lot of things. So it's just easy to say alternative when you really can't describe your sound. That's always been my philosophy on it. As far as indie, I think that spirit, I think that DIY attitude towards it, maverick in that way, I suppose. So I think that word, that genre, typically carries that connotation, at least from my perspective.
We have got Mark Ryan with us today, facebook.com/thefifthfire, and enthusiastic and eclectic is some of the words that you use to describe you guys. I think that's pretty tremendous. Why did you arrive at that?
I thought it was the first impression that you usually made about us. You usually couldn't figure us out. I once had a guy come up to me after a show and say, I didn't know what to make of you at first. You were kind of like some weird porn that I was enjoying, but I didn't understand why. And I was like, well, I take that as a compliment. And he's like, but the more I got into it, the more I liked it. So I always thought that was one of the first impressions people made of us. It was like they're very spirited. They have a lot of energy. They seem to love what they do. But they're also kind of, again, a hybrid of a lot of things that normally don't go together.
That's awesome. So John, listening to his background in wrestling and music, he's the perfect guest for us.
Oh yeah, it's like you're the big music freak, I'm the big wrestling freak. I like a lot of the music too. I was just kind of impressed with how you stated it. You're actually pretty much spot on with it. You got to know how to respond to the crowd. You got to do something to get them jacked up. Sometimes with wrestling, got to do the same thing with music. It's right. A lot of it's totally true. I mean,
I think the relationship you have with your peers is similar. I will actually say I really miss the camaraderie amongst the wrestlers. That's something that, people that aren't in the business may not really understand, is that when you put your life and your body in somebody else's hands, you share a bond with them that's very secular, and very, very succinct. And the bond and the camaraderie you have with wrestling, even though you may not be particularly close, is unbreakable. It's like being in the Marines or something, brotherhood until you die.
Yeah, pretty much.
So why did you leave the pro wrestling to do the music, or did the music take off and the wrestling didn't?
Kind of a combination. I had started music first. That was my first dream. But I'd always loved wrestling. I just always didn't think I was big enough to do it. And as time went on, smaller guys started to kind of, break the mold a little bit. So I was like, well, maybe this can work. Maybe I at least want to try to know. And I took some time off from music, got married, did the whole, traditional thing. And then I had the itch to perform again. I was just working a regular job for a while. So I'm like, I'm gonna give this a try. I'm gonna go to Harley's and I'm gonna go do it. And music was still in the back of my mind, though. I just feel that, I feel that was a more natural fit for me. It just kind of flowed, more smoothly. But I suffered an injury. It was really hard to make it out there, paying the tuition. It was a small town. Harley was in Eldon at that time. Yeah. And there wasn't a lot of work opportunities out there, so to keep up your tuition, I got injured a couple of times. I had some medical bills piling up. So writing just seemed to be on the wall, and, some musical opportunities came up. And then, the next day, you keep waking up every day, and the next thing you're doing music full time. You don't really think too much about it and just wake up one day and there you are.
It's pretty awesome. So you guys have managed to create a pretty big following online. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I'd like to think so. I mean, it's a day, it's day by day. We've been around for 10 years. We've done quite a bit of touring. We've done some radio spots with great guys like yourself, which has really helped us out. So, I don't know, just a day-to-day process. Your mind's always on it. From the time I wake up, I'm like, what can I do today? What's a creative kind of vantage point I can do to make something happen, to bring some more eyeballs and some ears to what we're doing.
So tell us about some of the music videos that you guys have done, because you've got some really cool videos out there. Thank
you. Actually, I think that's what prompted this today. That's the only official, but I got a little story here. We actually did a video back in 2013 with someone I know you're familiar with, James, and I'm sure you may be too, John, Mr. Jerry Edwards, the outlaw himself.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and Lance Chafin.
Yes.
From Midwest.
Everybody's familiar with both of them.
Oh, yeah.
I knew you would be. I contacted them. I had a concept for a video. We'd just gotten signed to a record deal, and I had a concept for a video, and I was like, let's do the song's about glory. I'm like, let's paint the face, paint the heel, make it a really simple story. We'll make it really apparent who is doing what. And I got to say, both those guys were a gem to work with, especially Jerry, who had to take some pretty serious bumps throughout that video. He actually got a stinger at one point.
Wow.
Jerry's a tough guy. We still have a great relationship to this day. Helped me out with some work a couple years ago. Jerry's just a great guy. I can't say enough great things about him. But that video was not able to be released for some legal reasons. The drummer at the time got in some legal trouble, and we couldn't really promote him in that video. So that's kind of in the archive somewhere. It's never been released. All the people that are involved have seen it, but few beyond that.
Wow. That is an interesting story. You always have some of the most interesting things to say when you come on here.
Yeah, it's been
all the different people you've worked
very
with.
Strange life.
And everything. So tell me about the Idealist. We're gonna pop that up here for our social media and TV viewers and everything.
Well, we recently moved to Vegas, which I wanted to say. I know you've been here a couple of times, and you haven't hit me up, so we can get the craps table.
We need to. Well, the last time I was out there, I was getting ready to get the COVID-19.
All right.
Although I didn't know it at the time.
Well, I hope you've successfully avoided that for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, we moved out here in October, and the band hadn't quite gotten here yet, so I was like, I need to do something. So let's see if we can just get a music video together. Just hit up Guy randomly, and there's a lot of people that a lot of producers just looking for work, a lot of film students around here looking for work, and he was a UNLV student, and I approached him with the idea and the meaning of the song, and kind of told him what I was going for, and we kind of just collaborated and brought out that vision. We couldn't do a whole lot. We only had one setting, so he really wanted to work with lighting, and we only had me as the performer, so we kind of had to work around those things, which I always love. I love the restrictions in the creative environment because I really think that brings out a lot more than if you had a lot more at your disposal.
Yeah.
So, it was off our most recent album, which we released last May, Larger Than Death. First, honestly, this is so after that story of the with Lance and Jerry, this is the actual first ever video the Fifth Fire has ever actually released and done, believe it or not.
Wow. That is awesome. So, are you planning on staying in Vegas, or has Vegas motivated you guys to go somewhere else, or?
No, that was always a plan to come and stay parked here for a little bit. We just needed a new environment to kind of inspire us creatively and push us and take us out of our comfort zone. And we kind of just spun the globe, and or the map, the U.S., and just pointed our finger and like, well, let's go there. And so yeah, we're planted here for the foreseeable future for sure.
That's awesome. So how long did it take to get this video shot? Because it looks like you're in several different outfits and the lighting and everything.
Yeah, that was my idea. It's idealism versus realism. The voice in your head that says you can, the voice in your head that says you can't. People that believe and people that don't. Pragmatists versus, people that are optimists. However you want to put it. And it was supposed to represent those two things and the kind of the clash inevitably between, those internal struggles that you have in chasing your dreams, and also those external voices that will influence you as well. So the change of the wardrobe was my idea, which I can tell he wasn't too sure about to begin with, because I think he had a different vision, but he ended up really liking it. All the lighting, all the editing was him. I mean, it's very simple, but I really enjoyed it, and typically I hate everything I'm involved with, so that's quite an achievement.
That's fantastic. So. And I do know that just from talking to you over the years, you're for whatever reason that's kind of your thing. You're not happy with certain things, which is fine. I guess that means that you're always striving to be better than you should be. So
yeah, imagine working with me. So
how has Vegas? I guess helped besides the music videos and doing some of the things. Have you made any music connections while you've been out there, or?
Well, we had one of the reasons I chose this place was we had played here in 14 on a tour, and fell in love with it. Just the vibe of the city is so liberating, I think, in a lot of ways. I think people have a certain idea about it, and it's there. But I think if you live here and you spend a little bit more time here, you kind of notice that there's a little bit more to it. It's a little bit different. So we kind of had some to begin with. And it's been early. We've just been here for a while. With COVID hitting, it's certainly shaken things up. So yeah, we're still kind of making that bed, so to speak.
So with all the different venues and things out there, have you hired like a booking agent to try to get you into some of these places, or?
Oh man, actually, this is kind of a detour into kind of a less positive story here. But I actually had a tour that we were going to book for early this year, and our first time working with a booking agency. But this is going to be a national booking agency, and they kind of ripped us off with our money and kind of took it and ran.
Wow.
And didn't give us the dates, and so that was a less than positive experience. But I'm sure we're not the only ones who have ever encountered something like that. So It's onwards and upwards.
That's awesome. So John, listening to his story, looking at some of his stuff online, what I know you've probably got some questions, my friend.
It was I was looking at some of your stuff from Reverb Nation or whatever on there, and it showed some of the places you had been. Were you guys like based out of Missouri originally, and then you went out there, or because you guys were in Wichita a couple of times last year and stuff, so.
Yeah, we were based out of Wichita originally. We formed in actually Derby, Kansas, and we moved to LA. Yeah, we moved to LA in 2013. We were there for just a little bit, and we kind of ran into some issues that caused us to have to come back. And so we planned it in Wichita for a while. We always left our promo stuff as LA because we just planned on going back. It was just supposed to be a temporary, abscond. But it kind of turned into something a little bit longer, and then eventually made it back here to the West Coast, coming into Vegas. But so we've been planning. We at different times been located in a few different places.
That's awesome. So
played a lot in Missouri. Kansas City is one of our favorite places to play. Got to say that.
So, talk to me a little bit about the music scene in Wichita and the music scene in LA.
I mean, we're still getting acclimated to the scene here in LA, or in LA. LA versus Wichita. Okay, sorry about that.
No. You're fine.
Man, I think the things that you would think. I mean, I think Wichita is a little more quaint, a little more communal, as opposed to where LA is a little bit. I don't want to say cutthroat because I think that's kind of a myth. But it's definitely more individualized, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
LA is a place that can be tough to, like, John, and we use the wrestling terms, to get over, so to speak. They're a tougher crowd to get over with because they've seen everything.
Yeah. So
I totally understand.
So, you were talking about some of the different people that you trained with when you were doing the wrestling thing. Why do you think some of these folks didn't get farther, like Ted DiBiase Jr.? Why didn't he go further, you think?
I've got a real bird's eye view, and I'll be completely candid here because I know Ted would with me. I've got a good relationship with Ted. We don't still talk or anything like that, but we had a good relationship back then, and he was always a great guy. From the moment that Ted walked in, he looked like an athlete. He worked like an athlete. I never saw Ted take one bad bump, not one time.
Yep.
Perfect from the time that he started. His dad's genes were, definitely alive and well. But I knew that Ted was going to struggle with expressing himself verbally. I didn't really see that there. I saw an athlete who was kind of a quiet kid, kind of kept to himself, and it was going to be tough to really bring that out of him and find that within himself. And I knew that's where he would have his struggle a little bit. And I think that he really loved the athletic aspect of the business, but he's a very secular and religious guy, and he's very steadfast in his beliefs. And I thought that he was going to have some trouble connecting with the entertainment side of the business. And so when I heard that he had hung it up when he did, I was a little surprised, but at the same time, I wasn't shocked.
Yeah. Well, I think what was it? Didn't he wrestle Angel for Dan out?
No, that was his older half brother Mike.
Okay, because I remember there was a DiBiase I saw one time, and I'm like,
yeah, it was Mike DiBiase.
Yeah,
that was that.
Yeah, Mike was at the same time. And
yeah, Brett's the youngest one. Ted Jr. was the middle, and then Mike's from Ted's first marriage. Yeah.
So watching,
and Mike and Ted are very different in that regard as well.
Oh yeah, very, like, personality-wise, totally.
So watching wrestling from afar, what do you think of this empty arena stuff and some of the things that they're doing, Mark, from a performer perspective? And
oh man, well, first of all, I gotta say, when you perform in front of no people, every bump you take hurts 50 times more. You're feeling everything, and it's just it's just excruciating. When we were trained, at least we had the other wrestlers around, but at the same time, I mean, it's the adrenaline of the crowd that really fuels you to absorb that pain and not feel it until later. You're feeling everything, so my empathy goes out to the performers for that. Man, it feels weird. I think there were a few things that they could try to do. I heard it on Cornette's podcast, and then AEW did it with putting a few wrestlers in the crowd that really would have helped, because with that you're going to get the reaction that you want. They're going to boo the heels, they're going to cheer the faces.
Yep.
Whatever was keeping them from doing that. I'm mixed on WrestleMania. I'm glad they did it because it gave us something to look forward to, and that's where I got to give it to Vince. I've been critical of Vince over the years, a lot, but I got to give it to him. He never lets anything stop him, and I find that very inspiring. I try to put that philosophy in my own word. But at the same time, if it had been me, I would have postponed it.
We have got a great guest with us today. Mark Ryan joins us here on our broadcast, and we are actually going to play your track, the video here. Tell me a little bit about this song. We talked about the video earlier, but tell us about the song.
Man, like I said, the song's about idealism versus realism. The voice that says you can't, the voice that says you can. The person that says no, things are always going to be bad and terrible, and the voice says no, things are going to get better. Things are going to look up. That internal struggle you have with yourself and those people in your life, they're going to tell you yes. People are going to tell you no. It's different than any other song on that record, and then I think it has more of a chain to our previous stuff, but also a direct line to where I think we're going. So different tone than a lot of the rest of the album. Love this song.
Well, we're going to play it. I'm going to hang up with you guys, and we're going to play this song, and I appreciate you making time for us today. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you, James. Looking forward to the Vince Russo episode next week.
Yes.
Man, that is awesome. Congratulations.
Yes, I think that will be entertaining as well. So thank you, sir. And I appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys soon. And, John, I will talk to you after we get done with the song here. Thank you, Mark.
Sounds good, dude.
Appreciate it, brother.
Take care, guys. Thanks.
There he goes. And we are going to play this. And then we have our next guest coming up here in just a few seconds on the world famous Jiggy Jaguar radio broadcast. Here it is, the Idealist, and it's here on our big program, coast to coast and boda to boda. Yes, indeed.